to like get it right. You'll never think, but those are some of the most difficult shots to
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know you know, but I'm telling everybody else.
That's one thing I've done a lot of is getting shots of cartridges and things like that. And it's like, a lot of times, like, your hand will be shaking if you're trying to, like, hold it, and it's like, oh, God. You know.
Well, when you're filming a cartridge, because the problem is, especially these newer cameras we have, the focus is limited to, like, probably about this far. If you get closer than this to the camera,
it goes out of focus.
Then, like, it goes out of focus. So, to get the cartridge in focus, you have to hold them in a very specific place, and it can't go too far away either, because there's, like, a very shallow range of focus depending on the lens, depending on how open the iris is, you know, how much light is in the shot. So a lot of times I have to, like, blast it with light to put all these lights around, and so I can close
just to get a shot of a fucking cartridge.
Yeah, to close the iris down so that you get a wider range of focus, and then still you're holding the cartridge like this, and your hand is like shaking because you're holding your arm out.
Meanwhile, it's just one shot.
It's just one shot.
Why is your Bible game script ripped in half? Did the cat eat it?
Probably what happened, my guess, is that when I got to that part, I probably needed to remember it, so I might have ripped it off
and taped it on the camera.
So probably,
that's probably what it was. All kinds of stuff in these. This is a great.
There were some. Oh well, this is all the notes that I wrote, because you know, a lots of times what happens is when we're the very first stage before the script ever begins, the first thing you do is play the game. That's where it always starts.
Step one is basically James and Mike Mondays.
Sort of. I mean, that's basically like.
But a lot of times it's just you.
Yeah. It's basically like a lot of times it's either just me or sometimes it's both of us. We play the game and we write the notes while we're playing it, because this does two things. This, for one thing, is what you build the script off of. And I just realized I'm starting to repeat myself a lot. If you see AVGN, the Barbie episode, which is also the majority of it is a making of documentary, watch that. That explains it all better than I can right now.
There you go. But, well, what can we say about this?
I will summarize, though. It's basically the notes to remember what happened during the gameplay. So you're recording the gameplay, and while you're doing that, I'm time coding notes so that I can come back and find all the spots that I was talking about. So when you write the script, I write them based on the things that I know I have footage of.
These are all notes, so he can go back to 2130 and know that that's the part that he needs to use when he goes to edit the video.
Otherwise, you'd be scanning the footage for hours. And this seems like a lot of work, like extra work up front, but this saves a lot of time in the long run to get the video done faster. See, a lot of these notes would not make sense to anybody other than myself, because that's, you know, I wrote it for myself back then, so I can't even remember what a lot of these are. But based on the time codes and having it fresh in my mind right after playing the game, I would know what these are at the time.
So just notes, old notes.
Some of these I would use when I was like, there's a part in the Jaguar video where I was talking about like, oh, I'm going to invent a game that's really random. You know, I was playing Attack of the Mutant Penguins. And I wanted to remember something about shark, palm trees, trains, apple, turkey. So I wrote down all the key words in the monologue so that I would sit it right here, and I'd be actually reading off of the page. Well, not reading, but I would kind of glance over at the words just to remind myself what, you know, to say next.
Where I remember, let's say in the Karate Kid video, one of the earliest videos, where you would look at the camera, and I could almost tell that in certain parts, I think you were probably just like reading off a page, because you had the notes just like this or whatever. And sometimes you do that. You hang it below the camera or something like that. Do you use that same method, or do you try to memorize?
A lot of it I memorize, but then also if it's something really long, then I do the same thing. I stick things.
You do bullet points and things.
Yeah, a lot of times they're summarized. A lot of times it's not the actual script. It's like just the words like that
to get you to remember what the next thing is.
I think the longest one that I ever remembered was in Tiger Games. I rehearsed it a bunch of times and looked at the notes, and when I hit record, believe it or not, I did it in the first take.
Wow.
Because I spent...
You're good like that.
Yeah. I mean, it was only because I spent so much time reading it again and again.
Sometimes I'm with James, and what's funny is I mark this just so if anybody ever wants to know, here's my handwriting and here's James' handwriting, so whoever gets this and you go through, you'll know who wrote what.
But I'll sit here before the camera rolls. I'll just sit here and I'll read it again and again and again and again and again and again. And I know that there exist teleprompters, but I want it to be more natural than that. So, not to mention, it's hard to operate a teleprompter when
you tried it like once or twice.
I've tried it before, but the speed, you got to control the speed of the scroll, and you need a second person to do that because you can't be sitting here like trying to read it and then you're waiting for the next part to scroll up. You know what I mean?
Because I mean, I can't always be there. And a lot of times you're filming these things. It could be 2 o'clock in the morning when you're trying to film a video. Because you gotta remember, these videos are not done at NBC Studios or anything. You know, and it's only you. And maybe you might have me there once in a while or somebody, but usually it's just you trying to film, and you're
focusing the camera,
doing everything.
Is it in focus? I'm like looking at the script, like is it in focus here? And
and there's a lot of occasions where you cannot do it on your own, so you have to have another person. So he'll call me over, and I'll help out. Like in the Dracula video, like I was doing the bats and things, and very important stuff like that, like operating bats on strings. James calls me up. He's like, "Mike, come over. You got to operate bats on strings." I'm like, "I'll be over. I'll be over." But I mean, the end of the Moonwalker video had that whole part where you turn into the cat, which is hilarious.
I remember you like that part.
I do. I think everybody loves that part. Oh, here it is. There's a little. This is hilarious. I mean, you should get a shot of this. But if there's just a drawing of you on the ground, and then the drawing is actually really funny.
Yeah, sometimes
turn into cat. Okay, I got something to say about Winter Games. Winter Games, for a very long time, I thought it would be important for the nerd. If the nerd ever had to go outside, what would the nerd wear? Because he always wears the white shirt. If the nerd ever went out, well, he can't just go to have a regular jacket. He's the nerd. It's got to be video game something. So there was that Atari jacket. I remember bidding for years and years and years on eBay to get that damn Atari jacket, and I lost many auctions trying to get it. And this is going back years and years ago. And finally, an adult. Because the problem was most of the those Atari jackets.
The adult one was like it hardly fits.
Yeah, well, the adult size. But finally, I find the Atari jacket comes up on eBay. It's the adult size one. I'm like, all right, I'm winning this because the nerd has to wear this jacket. So finally, I'm bidding, and then you told me, is this true or not? That the person I ended up bidding against was fucking Pat.
I think it was Pat.
Because Pat told him years later, I was bidding on this auction.
Like, I lost that to Mike.
I outbid Pat for the Atari jacket, and we didn't know that we were bidding against each other.
The way it looks from the back looks
not good.
Stupid.
Right.
And then I just can't stand it because I don't see what my back looks like when I'm filming.
Yeah.
I don't see it till later. I'm looking at the footage, and I'm like, well, here's the jacket, and then here's my white shirt.
The shirt's like going in.
Like, it looks like I'm wearing like a tiny little jacket, and that's the adult size. And then the Batman one, you would think like if someone made a Batman mask, the back would be enclosed, but it's not. The back is just